Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us for the second part of our story. Let's jump right back in. The divorce was a nightmare. Sarah fought it every step of the way. She wanted counseling and expected me to foot the bill. I refused, arguing that if she wanted counseling, she could pay for it herself. I actually won that fight. The counselor didn't like me much. I told him I was only there because the court ordered it and had no intention of participating. After 12 sessions, he gave up. She contested everything in the divorce, even over things she couldn't stand, like an old garage poster and my Bud Light lamp. It wasn't about wanting them. It was just to make the process harder for me and interfere with my time with the kids. In the end, the judge granted the divorce. I was ordered to pay half the mortgage and she got to keep the house. On top of that, I had to pay monthly child support and spousal maintenance for years unless she remarried. She moved Mark in before the divorce was finalized. Half my paycheck went straight to her. I cashed in some investments, bought a fixer-upper, and moved in with my tools, working on repairs during evenings and weekends. Visitation was a disaster. Sarah made it difficult, and the kids were either too busy or openly hostile. Eventually, they told me they didn't want to come around anymore. Forcing the issue would have only bred more resentment. I still sent gift cards and letters for birthdays and holidays, but they were returned unopened. My checks were cashed, but I never got so much as a thank you. I informed them about the college funds I'd set up, only to be told, no thanks. Sarah had turned them against me completely, so I focused on work and fixing up my house, saving money by staying in. One day I called my mom. Hey mom, how are you doing? Well, how are you? She replied cheerfully. I haven't heard anything about Thanksgiving. Are you hosting this year? There was a pause. Yes, but Sarah, her parents, and the kids are coming. She's bringing her new boyfriend. We thought it might be too awkward for you to be there. Seriously, Mom? You're choosing my ex-wife and her new guy over me. We want to maintain our relationship with the grandkids. This is your fault. You should have kept your family together. How about Christmas Eve? We'll be at Sarah's on Christmas Day. Forget it. You don't have a son anymore? I said and hung up. That Christmas Eve, I stayed home and watched Die Hard, ignoring every call and text from my mom. The gifts I'd mailed to the kids were returned again. 5 years later, I received a wedding announcement. Sarah had married Mark the weekend after my final maintenance payment. Noah had turned 18 the year before, which ended my child support too. I celebrated the milestone by getting drunk. I had done everything I could, worked hard, stayed involved, tried to be a father, and they still rejected me. Now that I was free from all financial obligations, I made the choice to move on and put it all behind me. Well, almost all of it. One thing still bugged me. I was still paying half the mortgage that was supposed to end when Noah graduated, and it had. But my name was still on the deed. Sarah believed the house was hers outright, but the divorce agreement only granted her the right to live there until the kids finished high school. I was still legally entitled to half the property's value, and the house had appreciated significantly. At the time of the divorce, the house had limited equity. Now, it was worth about $500,000 with $450,000 in equity remaining. Only $50,000 was left on the mortgage. Naturally, I wanted my share. It wasn't just about the money, though it would certainly help repay all those years of mortgage and spousal support. It was also about finally getting what was mine, and it would infuriate Sarah, which was a satisfying bonus. A week later, Sarah called me out of the blue. Ethan, what's going on? Just working and fixing up the house. Surprised to hear from you. What's up? Why did a realtor come to my house asking for a listing contract? She said she needs your signature to sell it because both of our names are still on the title. I said simply, I'm not selling. I love this house. Then when can I expect my check for half the equity? I got the house in the divorce. She snapped. No, you got to live there until Noah graduated. That time's up now. Either we sell and split the proceeds, or you buy out my half. I'm not giving you $100,000 for a house that's rightfully mine. Good thing I'm not asking for 100, I replied calmly. The equity has gone up. My half is worth more now, especially with the high-end furniture. You're insane. I'm not giving you a dime, she screamed before slamming the phone down. I couldn't help but laugh. A couple of months later, the judge ruled in my favor. Sarah was ordered to pay my legal fees and court costs. The house appraised for even more than I'd estimated, and she had to buy me out, with most of the money coming from Mark. That would come back to haunt him later. Meanwhile, I kept working on my own house, turning it into something special. I built out a workshop and picked up an old Chevy pickup in rough shape, mostly for the chassis. I stripped it down, cleaned and repainted everything. The rear differential was salvageable, so I rebuilt it. The transmission was a Borg Warner T10 manual 4-speed. Then I got to the fun part, the engine. I found a 427 big block online, had it shipped in, and tore it down. After the machine work, I dropped in a forged crankshaft, 10:1 pistons, a heavy cam, and ported and polished heads with double valve springs. I added a blower, chrome valve covers, polished aluminum, and steel-braided hoses to top it all off. The first time I drove it was a rush. Punched it on the freeway, and the rear tires lit up instantly. I barely managed to keep it straight. Lesson learned: go easy on the pedal. After that, I drove more cautiously. A few weeks later, I saw an ad for a local public car show. Figured it could be fun, so I signed up and paid the fee. On the day of the show, I drove my '72 Chevy to the park, checked in, and set up next to a pristine 1968 GTO. Two redheads were setting up behind the GTO, one around my age and the other a teenager. No guy with them, and I noticed the older woman wasn't wearing a ring. "Good morning. I like your GTO," I said. "Thanks. I like your truck too," she replied with a warm smile. "This is my first time showing a car. I'm Maria, and this is my daughter Beth," she said. "We've done a few of these." I invited them to join me in the shade, and we spent most of the day chatting with other car lovers. I didn't win any awards, but it didn't matter. I had a great time. Maria told me she divorced her husband after catching him cheating. She got the GTO in the settlement and used it as leverage to make sure he kept up with support and alimony. Beth was friendly too, and openly angry at her dad for what he'd done. When the show wrapped up, I asked if they'd like to grab dinner. They agreed, and we headed to Red Lobster. Over dinner, I shared my own story. They were surprised to hear that my kids blamed me for the divorce, even though my ex was the one who cheated. "I'm so sorry, Ethan," Maria said gently. "You seem like a genuinely good guy. You didn't deserve that." We exchanged numbers and agreed to meet again. Beth gave me a big smile, a wink, and a thumbs up, her clear stamp of approval. The following weekend, Maria and I went out for dinner and dancing. At the end of the night, she gave me a kiss on the cheek, and I caught Beth smiling again, giving me another encouraging thumbs up. After a few more dates, I invited them over to my house and made lasagna. They both enjoyed it and liked my place, though Maria did note that it could use a woman's touch. The next weekend, they invited me to their apartment. Maria's cooking blew mine out of the water. I couldn't stop eating and ended up apologizing for making a pig of myself, but they just laughed and told me it was the best kind of compliment for someone who loves to cook. 2 weekends later, Maria and I went out again. During a slow dance, she leaned in and whispered, "Take me home." Surprised, I pulled back slightly. She giggled and clarified, "Take me to your home." Well then, luckily, I had my regular truck, not the loud one. That night, we made love 3 times before falling asleep in each other's arms. I made her breakfast the next morning and drove her home. A few months later, I proposed, and she said yes. We had a simple ceremony in front of a judge, and they moved into my house. Beth even started calling me Daddy. Life was good. Sure, we had some disagreements. Beth was still a teenager, and I was the authority figure, but she respected me, and Maria loved me just as much as I loved her. The last dance. About a year later, I got a surprise call from an unknown number. "Hello," I answered. "Dad?" came an excited woman's voice. "Lily?" "Yes, Daddy, it's me. I have great news." "Really? It's good to hear from you. I'm getting married." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you. I want you at my wedding." "Oh," I hesitated. "Mark is paying for it," she continued quickly, "and he's going to walk me down the aisle. You wouldn't sit in the front row, but I really want you there." "Mark? The man your mother cheated on me with? She married him." "Look, Dad, I'm trying to reconnect. I want you at the wedding." "They got together after I left," I said bitterly. "You still believe your mother did nothing wrong. I just want peace. I can't support this. That man destroyed my marriage, and now he gets the honor that should have been mine. I can't be part of that. And frankly, the way you've treated me after all these years, you've become a shallow, self-centered woman. Fine then. Don't expect to see your grandchildren. If you raise them to think and act like you, I don't want to. Mom was right. You are an a-hole." That was the last I heard from my daughter. She sent texts and voicemails afterward, but I deleted them all. Her so-called olive branch was nothing but an insult. She made her choice 10 years ago. Any hope for a relationship with her or Noah was gone. It hurt, but I had to accept it. They blamed me for their mother's betrayal. I put my phone down and headed out to work on my 1963 Chevy pickup. This build would be more restrained than the '72, a beefier 350 engine, nothing too crazy. I didn't notice Beth had come home or that she'd picked up my phone. Meanwhile, Lily was furious with her dad. She'd reached out, trying to reconnect, and he talked to her like she was the enemy. It was his fault their family fell apart. She invited him to her wedding, gave him the chance to make things right, and he threw it back in her face. She just wanted him to own what he did to their family. Her phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, is this Lily Miller?" a sharp voice asked. "Yes. Can I help you?" "Yes, you can. Stop calling my dad and being such a witch." He's the best man I know, and he doesn't deserve to be dragged down by a brat like you. Reminding him of your pathetic excuse for a family. Who the hell are you? Lily demanded. My name is Beth Carter. I'm your sister. My mom married your dad, and he adopted me. I love him, and I'd never disrespect him the way you have. You're an insult to daughters everywhere. Lily was stunned. Beth continued without pause. I know exactly what happened. Your mom disrespected her husband by going on a date and sleeping with another man, and somehow you're okay with that? My biological dad cheated on my mom, and she kicked him out without a second thought. If my mom ever cheated, I'd help my dad pack her bags. He's the most decent, caring man I've ever known, and I'm thankful every day that your mom was dumb enough to let him go. She wasn't finished. You can tell your grandparents they have another granddaughter now, but I want nothing to do with people who rejected their son just because they sided with a cheater. When you say your vows, think about what it'll feel like when your husband cheats on you. Call me when it happens so I can laugh. And with that, she hung up. Lily just stared at her phone, stunned. She couldn't believe it. Dad got married and didn't tell them. And now she apparently had a younger stepsister who sounded exactly like she used to before Mom convinced Noah and her that Dad was destroying the family over something minor. Back then, she'd actually thought about living with him, but Mom had explained that she just needed this one thing to feel whole again and that Dad had overreacted by leaving. She made it seem like he was the one tearing the family apart. Now this Beth person had called her names without even knowing her. Of course Mark was walking her down the aisle. He had been there for her all these years. He was also the one paying nearly $20,000 for the wedding. She seriously doubted Dad could have contributed even a fraction of that. Still upset, Lily sat quietly as Mom and both grandmothers came in from shopping. Mom immediately noticed her mood. Honey, what's wrong? I told Dad about the wedding, Lily said. I invited him, hoping it might help us rebuild something. That's wonderful, Grandma Miller chimed in. Will he be there? We haven't heard from him since Thanksgiving a few years ago. Lily sighed. No. He got angry when I told him Mark would be walking me down the aisle and said it would be too awkward to sit with Mom and Mark. Oh, that's too bad, Mom said. I thought he'd have gotten over his stubbornness by now. That's not even the worst part, Lily added. I found out I have a stepsister. What? They all exclaimed. Yeah, her name's Beth Carter. She called me after Dad hung up. Apparently, he married her mom and adopted her. She was incredibly rude. Said the nicest thing she wanted to do was thank my mom for being stupid. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such a great dad. Lily told them about both calls. They were stunned by the hostility from Dad and this girl. Ethan got married and we weren't invited, Grandma Miller whispered, shaking her head. When the day of Lily's wedding finally arrived, she had a brief moment of sadness that Dad wouldn't be there, but she shook it off. She'd reached out, he rejected her. This was her happy day, and she was marrying the man she loved. Mark beamed as he took her arm, and together they walked down the aisle. Lily was overjoyed, surrounded by friends and family. Noah stood proudly as one of Daniel's groomsmen. Tears welled in her eyes as she caught sight of Daniel's warm smile, waiting for her at the altar. Mark lifted her veil, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "Congratulations, baby," before placing her hand into Daniel's. The ceremony began. When the minister asked, "Who gives this bride away?" and Mark replied, "Her mother and I do." Something about it felt wrong, but Lily pushed the feeling aside and focused on Daniel, repeating her vows. Then, when she reached the words, "forsaking all others," a flood of images filled her mind. Daniel with another woman, him heartbroken as she confessed to cheating. Suddenly, it all made sense. "I understand now," Lily blurted, clarity washing over her like cold water. Daniel looked concerned. "What do you understand?" "Everything," Lily said firmly. Then she turned serious. "Daniel, do you really love me?" "Of course I love you," he replied. Confusion and worry etched on his face. "Why are you asking?" "Because I can't marry you today," Lily said, her voice trembling but determined. "We will get married, but not today. I need to fix something first." "Baby, what's wrong?" he asked, growing more worried. "I love you, and I want a future with you, but not like this. We'll reschedule, I promise." Lily took his hand and squeezed it tightly. "You're not losing me, Daniel. You're coming with me." Lily turned to the guests. "I'm so sorry, but I can't go through with this today. We will reschedule. In the meantime, please enjoy the reception. It's already paid for, courtesy of Mark." With Daniel's hand in hers, Lily started walking back down the aisle, but her mother and Mark stepped in to block their path. Mark looked livid, and Mom's voice cut in sharply. "Lily, what are you doing?" "I'm fixing a mistake I made a long time ago," Lily said, resolute. "What mistake?" she snapped. "The mistake of blaming Dad for the divorce when it was you who cheated," Lily said, meeting her eyes. "I am your mother, Lily. I am not some street tramp and you will respect me, she hissed. Respect you? How dare I? Lily shot back, her anger bubbling to the surface. I'm ashamed I ever looked up to you. It wasn't until I stood here, looking into Daniel's eyes, that I realized how awful it would feel if he ever cheated on me, or if I did the same to him. That's when I finally understood what Dad must have felt. He was a good man, a good role model. You weren't. Sarah's face fell. What do you mean? She whispered, fear flickering in her eyes. I mean you destroyed our family, Lily said, her voice raw with emotion. You hurt Dad. You hurt us. And I was wrong to take your side. I never meant to hurt anyone, Sarah murmured, tears forming in her eyes. But you did, Lily said, now steady. And I can't pretend anymore. She leaned in closer, voice sharp. And don't act shocked, Mom. You think I don't know about your workouts at James Dalton's apartment? Or how Caesar the pool boy spends extra time here because you're sleeping with him? Or the landscaping crew you hook up with after yard work? I have videos of all that. Lily continued, her voice unwavering. And let's not forget those little backroom favors you give Marco, your hairstylist. At least Mark doesn't have to worry about you cheating with your boss. Oh, and Alan Morris, our neighbor, who conveniently stops by when his wife is out for girls' night. Sarah's eyes darted nervously to Mark, whose face was now frozen in utter disbelief. Lily turned to him. Mark, I promise you, with the same level of commitment my mom had to her vows, that I'll pay you back for this wedding. Don't expect a dime. With that, Lily grabbed Daniel's hand and marched back down the aisle. On the way, she stopped by the videographer. Did you catch all that? She asked. He nodded, eyes wide. She signed a release form for YouTube, took a copy of the footage, and they headed to the parking lot. They jumped into Daniel's car, and he floored it. Where are we going? He asked, trying to process everything. West, Lily said, pulling up the address on her phone. It's about 2 hours away. I just hope Dad's home. We didn't stop to change. I was still in my wedding dress, Daniel in his tux. This wasn't the kind of thing you waited on. It's not every day you show up at someone's doorstep in full wedding attire, especially when that someone is your estranged father. Lily wasn't sure what she expected when he opened the door. Shock, confusion, maybe even anger, but he just stood there staring. Took him a second to recognize her. Lily, he said, blinking, it's your wedding day. Shouldn't you be at the church, the reception, your honeymoon? Daddy, she said gently, can I talk to you for a minute? Still stunned, he let them in. Maria and Beth were sitting in the living room and looked equally shocked. Lily, this is my wife, Maria, and our daughter, Beth, Dad said, motioning to them. Maria, Beth, this is Lily. I'm not sure who the guy is. Daddy, this is Daniel Green, my fiancé, Lily said. We were supposed to be married today. Didn't you get married a few hours ago? He asked, eyebrows raised. I need to explain, Lily said. I couldn't go through with it. I realized I can't get married unless my daddy walks me down the aisle. Her voice trembled. Daddy, I finally understand. You were right. It wasn't you who threw everything away. It was Mom. I'm so sorry for blaming you all these years. You didn't deserve any of that. I want you back in my life. I want to make things right. I really want to marry Daniel. But not unless you walk me down the aisle. He looked overwhelmed. Lily could tell he hadn't expected this. Not today, and certainly not from her. Did something happen? He asked gently. You're both still dressed for the ceremony. We were halfway through, Lily explained, when I had an epiphany. She handed him a CD. Watch this. You'll understand. Maria showed Lily to a room where she could change. When Daniel and Lily returned, Dad had set up the video. They sat together and watched it unfold. It began like any typical wedding. Smiles, music, flowers. But then the shift happened. The vows, the hesitation, her confrontation with Mom. Lily saw Beth lean toward Dad and whisper. Stunned. She really stopped it. When the video ended, Lily looked at Dad. I couldn't go through with it, she said quietly. I realized how deeply I would hurt Daniel if I ever did what Mom did to you. That's when I finally understood what forsaking all others truly means. Mom dishonored her vows to you, and by excluding you from my wedding, I was doing the same. The vows wouldn't mean anything without you there, without the most honorable man I know. When I marry Daniel, it needs to be you who walks me down the aisle, not Mom and not Mark. Lily paused to smile warmly at Beth. And I need my little sister as a bridesmaid. Your words woke me up. How can I get married without you up there with me? It was a lot to take in. They talked for hours. Back to Ethan. I hadn't known that Beth had taken Lily's number from my phone and called her after seeing those deleted voicemails. When it got late, I offered them the guest bedroom. Lily ignored incoming calls from Mark and Sarah, but she did answer friends. A few guests took her up on her suggestion to enjoy the reception anyway, on Mark's dime. He tried to cancel the event, but it was too late. so he ended up sulking in the corner with a drink in hand. Noah later sent Lily a video of Sarah trying to talk to Mark at the reception, which ended with him shouting, "Cheating whore." Safe to say that relationship was crumbling. Noah also managed to cancel Lily and Daniel's flight and resort reservation for the honeymoon, though they had to eat a 20% cancellation fee. Still, since they'd already taken time off, they spent the week with us. During that time, I reconnected with Lily and got to know Daniel, who turned out to be a solid young man with strong values. It was a little tense at first, understandable given the lies my ex and kids had fed him, but once he saw the truth and got a tour of my workshop, he warmed up. We set a new wedding day for the same venue a year later. This time, I'd walk my daughter down the aisle. Maria and Beth were part of the planning. Lily and Daniel updated the rest of the wedding party, except Mark and Sarah. In the months that followed, Lily and I rebuilt our bond. She and Daniel visited often, and I got to know him even better. We entered car shows together. Maria's GTO, my 72 truck, Daniel's Challenger, and Beth's 74 Firebird. Even Noah showed up now and then, though it was harder for him because of his stronger loyalty to Sarah. Meanwhile, things spiraled for Sarah and Mark. Mark filed for divorce under irreconcilable differences, which avoided a public fight and helped enforce the penalties in their prenup. The agreement protected all of Mark's pre-marriage assets, leaving Sarah with just the house and around $50,000. He couldn't prove he'd used his own money to buy out my share of the house, and since his name wasn't on the title, it backfired. He ended up paying off a business loan with nothing in return. Since he couldn't refile on the grounds of infidelity in time, the damage was done. Word of Sarah's affairs spread fast, and her social standing plummeted. Former friends began avoiding her, and she stopped receiving invitations to parties, charity events, and community gatherings. Worse still, without a job and having relied on Mark's financial support, she found herself in real trouble. Mark, for his part, learned an expensive lesson. He lost several thousand buying out my share of the house, another $228,000 on the failed wedding, and had to pay Sarah $50,000 in the divorce. And then there was the public humiliation. Enraged by how things had unfolded, Sarah started telling her remaining friends that Mark had a tiny instrument and didn't even know how to use it properly. That kind of gossip spreads fast in small circles. Soon, every woman he approached in bars would just laugh him off. He became something of a recluse, going to work and coming straight home. His social life vanished. "Ready, Daddy?" my eldest daughter asked. "No father is ever truly ready to let go of his daughter," I replied, smiling warmly. "But I'm honored to do this for you." As the church doors opened and the music swelled, I stepped forward proudly, my left foot leading the way as I walked my daughter down the aisle. I looked around and felt my smile grow. My ex-wife sat in the fourth row while my wife, Maria, sat where she belonged, in the place of honor in the first row. I would join her there after completing one final important duty for my daughter. "Who gives this woman to be wed?" the minister asked. "As her father, I give her to be wed," I said clearly. Then I leaned in and whispered, "Love you, Munchkin," before kissing Lily on the cheek and placing her hand in Daniel's. Yes, I purposely didn't mention my ex-wife. That wasn't just my idea. Lily had asked me to do it that way. I returned to my seat beside Maria as the ceremony continued. When Lily reached the part in her vows that read, "Forsaking all others," she practically shouted it with fierce conviction. Then she smiled radiantly as she finished her vows. It was a beautiful ceremony, and cheers erupted when they kissed. Later, from my seat at the head table, Maria at my side, I spotted Sarah at a table off to the side. She looked anything but pleased. Every time she glanced up and saw Maria in the seat that used to be hers, a scowl crossed her face. She was also making liberal use of the open bar. Mark hadn't been invited. I doubt he would have come even if he had. That day marked the completion of my final great act for my daughter. I walked her down the aisle, gave her away, toasted her and Daniel with heartfelt words, shared a father-daughter dance, then danced with my wife while the newlyweds danced with Daniel's parents. With my obligations fulfilled, I was relaxing at the table beside Maria. My younger daughter was dancing with one of the many boys trying to win her attention when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Pardon me, Maria. Is it all right if I borrow your husband for this dance?" Maria and I turned to face Sarah. Maria studied her for a moment before replying evenly, "Just make sure you return him to where you found him." Then she looked at me and added, "I trust you. It's her I don't trust not to try something stupid." I took Sarah onto the floor just as a slow song began. I wouldn't have been surprised if she'd requested it herself. I kept a respectful distance, avoiding any close contact. We danced quietly for a moment before she spoke. "You were supposed to give me that one night," she said. "We should have moved past that and gone on like normal. It was supposed to be us here today. You weren't supposed to go out that night." "You should have known me better," I replied calmly. "There's no world where I'd be okay with you cheating on me. Not once, and certainly not repeatedly." I didn't cheat, she snapped. I told you before I did it. I didn't sneak around behind your back. Whether you told me or not is irrelevant, I said evenly. The fact that you were intimate with someone else is cheating. I never gave you permission. In fact, I told you not to do it, but you did it anyway. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted that one night with you, and then we could have moved on together. You know, you're the only man I've ever truly loved. I never had any love for him, honestly. The intimacy wasn't even good. He was selfish and not nearly as satisfying as you. Then why did you marry him? I asked. Because you divorced me, she said bitterly. I didn't love him, but I liked him. After you left, I didn't want to be alone. I thought maybe I'd grow to love him, but I never got over you. I did all that out of anger. I was pissed that you walked away. But after that one night, I realized you were everything I'd ever need. I never wanted another man again. So why did you cheat on him too? Because he was awful in bed, she confessed. I thought maybe I could teach him, but he wouldn't listen. He'd just do his thing, finish in a few minutes, roll over and fall asleep. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and found a few guys who could actually satisfy me. She shook her head, voice softer. I had no idea Lily knew anything. And even if I had, I never thought she'd betray me like that. I'm sorry for you, I said. We did have a good marriage, but you threw it all away for one night of mediocre sex. Is there any chance? I couldn't help but laugh. Not just no, hell no. Even if I wasn't married now, what you did, turning our kids against me, killed any chance of reconciliation. But I am married, to a woman I love, and we have a daughter I adore. The most I can offer you is civility when we're at family events. Thankfully, the song ended soon after that. I didn't speak to her again that night. She eventually had to sell the house. Couldn't keep up with the mortgage. She moved into a small apartment. The money from the sale was enough to live on if she was careful. She went out with friends now and then, but as far as I know, she never had another relationship. Mark ended up living alone as well. Lily and Daniel built a strong, loving marriage. They had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. Noah also married a kind, sweet woman, and they had 2 daughters. As far as I know, neither couple betrayed the other. Some people said I should have gotten revenge on Sarah and Mark, but honestly, anything I did would have either landed me in jail or backfired. Instead, I chose to live my life the best way I could. There's a saying, the best revenge is a life well lived. That's what I did. I let karma take care of the rest. And karma, she's a cow whose dance name is vengeance. Neither Mark nor Sarah were destroyed, but they didn't walk away unscathed either. I had nothing to do with that, but I won't pretend I didn't feel some satisfaction. Now I have a wife I love, my daughter back in my life, and 2 other children who are part of it too. That's more than enough. I'm surrounded by people who truly love me, and my life is good. Ready, Daddy? My daughter Beth asked. No father is ever truly ready to let go of his daughter, I replied, smiling. But I'm honored to do this for you. As the doors opened and the music filled the church, I stepped forward with my left foot, proudly walking my daughter down the aisle. My wife sat in her place of honor in the front row, beaming with pride. I would join her soon, but first, I had one last important responsibility to fulfill for my daughter. Don't worry, Daddy. I'm going through with it today, Beth said reassuringly. I talked to Lily. I'm doing it right the first time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.